Welcome everyone. We're just in the process of letting some additional students join us from the waiting room. So I'll let you all get situated and I'll be sharing my screen and doing introductions here shortly. I want to let everybody know who's joining the call. We are going to go ahead and record this session just so that students who aren't able to join us will have access to it at a later stage, or if you or your families want to re-watch it. We will also provide the slides as well as some FAQs from the section, or excuse me, from the session. So that if you are unable to access the video, you will still be able to view and read through our slides and our questions. So with that, I will go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. Okay. Right, so welcome everyone. We are very excited to host our info session for the Shanghai Start program. And as you will hear in this info session, this is a really exciting endeavor that Study Abroad, as well as the International Students and Scholars Office within the Global Engagement Office here on campus have taken on this year in support of our students in China. And so what we are going to do is talk about sort of the overview of the program, as well as some different details, and then allow time for questions towards the end of our presentation. So we're going to go ahead and jump in with introductions. So I am Sarah Branley. I am the Director of Study Abroad. I, of course, have not had a chance to meet all of you or work with all of you yet, but I am sure that we will throughout the course of this application process and program. So myself, as well as my team of 3, oversee our undergraduate study abroad program. So these are traditionally programs for our undergrad students here in Santa Clara that then go outside of the US to study in countries sort of all around the world and then bring their courses and credits back to the US. And so in a lot of ways, this program, the Shanghai Start program, is a study abroad program. Of course, though you are completing your courses in your home country, but as Santa Clara students, you are technically taking your Santa Clara classes abroad away from the university. So we are overseeing this program and will work closely with you. And I will be hosting the majority of this session this afternoon. I'll hand it over to Melissa to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Melissa Hyde. I'm the Director of International Students and Scholars, and I have had the joy of interacting with a handful of you, and will probably interact with even more of you. And I know that several members of my team are on this call right now as well. And so we are excited to have you here. We're excited to offer this program and just as an option for you, considering your plans moving forward. And I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Great. So the other person or player in this introductory piece is introducing you to API, who is our program provider. And so our program provider, just to give you a sense of what that is an organization that is based here in the US that is assisting us in creating this custom program for our Chinese students abroad right now. And so these folks are there to assist in creating courses. They are there to provide on-site support for you. They are helping us develop our housing offerings for you. They will also be in charge of sort of your day-to-day life as far as on-site orientation to some of the really interesting and fun cultural programming that we've talked about in our program brochure. So these folks are going to work really closely with us and with you if you continue through this process. They are available to answer questions and you will get to know them a lot. So they are kind of a third piece in the support that students will have for this program. So the overview and the agenda for this afternoon. Like I said, we're going to go sort of an overview of the program. And by overview, what we'll talk about is really what our goals are for establishing the Shanghai Start program and what we are hoping is going to provide for students, and incidentally, what it is not going to provide for students. So we have a really realistic picture of what this program is as you are going through the process of deciding to apply and submitting your application. We, of course, are going to talk about courses and credit because that is really at the heart of how we have looked at establishing this program. And we'll talk and touch on a little bit about the location of the academic center in Baoshan, as well as the housing that API is connecting our students with. We will cover cost and billing so that you and your families know exactly what this program is going to cost in comparison to remaining here at Santa Clara Online. And we're going to talk also then a little bit about thinking ahead towards your academic planning for when you would return to Santa Clara courses and coursework. And so we'll talk a little bit about what to think through both before and after the decision process. And then we're going to finish up with sort of dates and deadlines so you can make sure that you are on track with understanding sort of what your upcoming deadlines are and next steps look like. And then, as I'm sure many of you will have, are questions, of course. We're asking that everyone hold their questions either till the end or drop them in the chat box, and Melissa will take a record of them and we will address them towards the end of this session. I'm hoping that in what we're covering today, we will answer many of your questions. So please feel free to chat those and know that we will do our best to answer them towards the end of the session. If we are unable to answer your question during the session, we will also make note of it and we will follow up with a question, or excuse me, with an answer, probably to the entire group so that we can all benefit from that information. So the overview of the program, as I mentioned, in talking about what our goal was, our goal is really to provide an in-person option for our Santa Clara students who are Chinese citizens or residents of China that cannot enter the US for what is spring semester, or for in the Santa Clara world, winter and spring quarters. And so this, of course, is something that is affecting many universities across the US at this point. And so this is our way of hopefully providing a different option for you before you are able to come and join us here on campus. And it really allows you to get some in-person interaction. As I mentioned, we're really thinking of this as an abroad program because, again, you are a Santa Clara student to us and you are abroad taking your classes. But I think it's important to note that it's an abroad program that's actually geared really towards first-year students. Now, if you are a second-year student that is joining our call, or even a third year, while you are welcome to take part in this program, I really want to advise you that you want to look closely at the courses that will be offered to really determine if those are going to assist in your progress towards graduation, or if you need to sort of adjust your academic planning to participate in this in-person option for the spring semester, which again covers winter and spring quarters here at Santa Clara. So as part of thinking of this as an abroad program, you also are attending or thinking about attending East China Normal University as a visiting student. So you very well could have friends in China that are there going to ECNU as a fully enrolled student or a degree-seeking student who are having maybe a different experience abroad, or excuse me, at ECNU than you will have, because they are enrolled there as a full-time student. Even though you are living there in China, you maybe are even from Shanghai, you are not going to necessarily engage with the ECNU campus as a regular full-time student. So it's important to understand that, because that does have implications for what kind of courses you'll be able to take, where you might be living in comparison to some of your friends who are attending ECNU, and we'll talk through some of those differences. But it is important to note that you are taking courses that are with ECNU faculty. And so we'll talk through that when we get to courses. I think what is really unique about this program as part of why we have established it for our students is that it really allows you the opportunity to meet, study, and live with a SCU cohort. So you will have an opportunity to sort of in-person engage with your classmates who will hopefully then join you on campus when we are all back together next fall. And so this is really getting a chance to build those relationships early on right now that you might not be able to do so as easily or as seamlessly when we're trying to do it virtually. And so in addition to the Santa Clara cohort, it also gives you some exposure to meeting other visiting students that will eventually be bound for other US universities. So getting a chance to make friends with students who will be all over the US is really unique too. So of course, courses and credit are at the forefront of everyone's mind. And I want to start out by saying that, all the courses that are offered through this program will earn you Santa Clara credit and grades. And I think that's really important to know because while requirements, of course, are part of what moves you towards graduation, still earning Santa Clara credit and grades into your transcript and record is still key to your academic success as well. So I think that's the first thing that we want to start with. Now, that being said, we are working really hard to have these classes evaluated potentially as core classes, as well as any applicable major requirements. So if there is a sociology class, we are working with the sociology department to determine could this course count for one of your sociology requirements. And so I think that that is an added benefit that students were receiving Santa Clara credit and grades, and then also still hopefully making progress in either your core requirements or your major requirements. As I mentioned, this program is targeted towards first-year students. So for those of you who are potentially second years or older within your academic career here at Santa Clara, might look at these courses and say, I don't need any of these. These are not necessarily upper division units that I'm focusing on, or I've already completed many of these requirements. And that is going to be the case for many students. And I think it's important to really realize and judge whether or not, in conversation maybe with your academic advisors, if taking these courses is going to be a good fit for your academic plan. And it very well could. Students often have space to move courses around and take maybe electives that they're interested in or when they're exploring different majors when they're undeclared. And so, if it doesn't look like right off the bat any of these are going to be strict requirements for you, you still might want to have that conversation with advisors to see if those courses will still work for you. While students are on this program, we will be expecting them to take a full-time load of either 4 to 5 ECNU courses. And this is sort of in keeping with a full-time schedule on a semester program that we would require of our abroad students. It's also to really make sure that that you're not really experiencing any kind of time conflicts or any of those kind of synchronous, asynchronous issues that many of the students are struggling with right now. So focusing on your in-person classes is currently, at ECNU, is currently the process that we are going to follow for this program. Students will be receiving anywhere from 18 to 22.5 quarter credits for the semester. So as I mentioned, you're taking 4 to 5 classes on this program, and it is a semester length program. So it stretches from over our winter quarter here through spring quarter at Santa Clara. So this does mean that when you look at the amount of quarter credits you might earn over winter and spring combined at Santa Clara, 22.5 quarter credits is probably going to be slightly less than that. So it will be important for you when thinking about the number of units that you have that are going towards graduation, that you are keeping that in mind as you continue here at Santa Clara to maybe take an additional course here or there as needed if you need to catch up in credits. But it's not going to throw you so far off that you will need to necessarily stay an additional quarter or anything like that, provided that you are able to work those extra credits in over the rest of your time here at Santa Clara. This is true for our regular study abroad students. This is something that they work with when they go on semester length programs in the spring. So very common here at Santa Clara. You will be taking courses with other Santa Clara students, as I mentioned, that cohort, but you'll also be with other visiting students, so other Chinese students who have not been able to enter their US institution yet. So you will be sort of mixed up in those classes and getting to engage sort of with students who will be at different universities. And courses are going to be subject to minimum enrollment requirements. So the courses that we have that are listed on the program brochure, if you've looked at them so far, are all the possible courses that could be offered in the term that you are there. Which ones are actually offered really is determined by the number of students who enroll in this program and are interested in every single course. And so if they hit the minimum enrollment requirement, they will offer that course. If they do not, then you might need to adjust and find another course if it's not offered. For that reason, as you are going through this process of learning about the program and deciding if it is for you, it is really important to have multiple classes that you are interested in taking, not just the 4 to 5. So as you get to the application, you will see we are asking for more than that. So you really have a wide range of courses that you could choose from should they shift around based on enrollment. Syllabi are being made available on the program homepage, which we link to on our brochure. So if you would like to read more about the course, you can. Those are being sort of added daily as we get them from ECNU directly. So on to location and housing. So many students have said, you know, I'm not really sure where this campus is located. We haven't necessarily heard of a campus in Baoshan. And it's important to kind of indicate that, yes, this is a real campus that there's officially recognized by ECNU. This is their Baoshan Academic Center, and this has been established specifically to support visiting students during COVID. And so this is a operating academic center right now. They have students there for their fall term. So this has been an ongoing center over the past several months. And so this is sort of what we consider kind of like a satellite campus, an academic center that is you know, again, connected and officially approved and affiliated with ECNU, but it is not on the main campus. So we've provided the address here, but it is located in sort of an area where, you know, students will still have access to things like restaurants, shopping, gyms, cafes, but it is in a little bit more of a sort of a financial district. And so it does look a little different than if you are familiar with the main campus, but the map is provided in the program brochure, and I invite you to also utilize the address. We can also connect you with API to give you more information about the location if you're looking for that too. So housing is provided as part of the program, and the program cost, as we will talk about, covers the housing, and it is mandatory for all participants. And so the housing is set up through API, and it is located just one metro stop from the academic center. So you are really getting a chance to live sort of that university student life where you are really close to your campus. You are getting to sort of live and study all in a really close vicinity, and you will get, again, a chance to kind of get to know the community and the surrounding area because you'll be so close. That being said, you're only about 45 minutes to the center of town, or excuse me, to the center of the city. So those of you who are familiar with the metro, in particular in Shanghai, and want to visit the city center, you can definitely do so pretty easily. So it is a great location in that sense. Students will have private rooms, which I think is really key and was key for us in thinking about the health and safety of this program. So private rooms, you will have access to a shared kitchen, study area, and gym, however. So you will still have access to certain amenities, like being able to cook you know, in your residence rather than always eating out. You will still have an area to study without necessarily having to be on campus all hours of the day. And this is a student residence, so you will have, again, that opportunity to meet other visiting students outside of just Santa Clara, because you will be part of this student community. So for cost and billing information, this cost is related to the Santa Clara Study Abroad semester cost, which is $25,499. And so what this includes is the Santa Clara tuition, as well as a program fee. And that program fee covers, as I mentioned, housing as well as other administrative fees. But this cost and our ability to give you Santa Clara credit and grades, and have you go on this program as a Santa Clara student, even though you are studying at ECNU, is really tied to our ability to charge the Santa Clara tuition. And again, covering that housing within that cost. So you might talk with other students who are participating on this program that might have a range of different costs that their universities are working with them on. This, again, this cost allows us to provide that tuition and then the courses and credit that I mentioned. There are links to sort of a breakdown of the administrative fees, as well as explaining sort of more about how that process, or excuse me, how that program fee and tuition work. And it's linked directly into the program brochure that we've provided you. It's important to note that this is really comparable to a quarter at Santa Clara when you have the tuition cost as the base fee, as well as then housing that would be in, you know, something else that students would of course be paying for once they return to Santa Clara. So to a quarter on campus at Santa Clara, this is very comparable. It's also interesting, I think, to note that this cost covers both winter and spring quarters at SCU, because again, this is a semester program. So in some ways, this is almost a savings because students will be billed one time in January for the full program cost, right directly through your eCampus student account. So you will not be charged this twice for both winter and spring quarters. You'll be charged one time in January for the full cost of the program that will again cover sort of both winter and spring quarters. So it is a little bit of a savings when you look at it from that perspective. So in regards to the Santa Clara academic planning, many of you have asked questions sort of about what does this mean, particularly for your CTW, your CNI sequences. Some of you are STEM majors, so within computer science, sciences, engineering, math, that have very particular sequenced courses that they need to adhere to, and have questions about what that means. And so in terms of your CTW and CNI sequences, there are different avenues and ways that students can complete those sequences back here at Santa Clara once they come back in fall 2021. And we'll have different options depending on where you are in those sequences. And so we really encourage you to work with our Drama and Advising Center to figure out what makes best sense for you. We are hoping to offer an advising session for students who decide to do this program, potentially in early winter, so we can talk through what some of those options look like. But you can reach out now to make an appointment with Drama if you have serious concerns about or questions about working out your CTW and CNI sequences once you return after completing this program. For those students who are considering majors in math, science, such as biology or chemistry, computer science, engineering, if you're undeclared but you're following that plan towards any of those majors, it is really important that you work with your department advisor to map out your courses, because it is true that these majors can be very impacted in terms of you take certain requirements at certain times and you can't stray too far from that. And so it could be having to weigh your options of completing your courses for that particular major after you return from this program. And while on this program, focus on other things that are maybe going to work for core requirements or general electives. And that might not work for all of you who are in those majors. If you are not able to get the courses that you need to stay on track, then your option might be then to stay with Santa Clara Online for the winter term. Once you decide and commit to this program, what the registrar will do is they will be in charge of enrolling you in the study abroad course that you will see pop up on your eCampus. So any courses that you have been enrolled in or are enrolled in for winter, we will automatically remove you from those and put you into the study abroad course. And so you don't have to do anything or notify anybody about that. We will handle that for you. And again, this is once you finally commit to the program later on. This is not just if you apply. So if you're not sure yet, you are still welcome to apply. That doesn't commit you to anything yet. We won't be removing you from courses just if you hit the submit button on your application on the 7th. So just to put that out there. I think I, again, have mentioned this, but students on this program really want to envision returning to campus, hopefully physically, but at least rejoining Santa Clara classes in fall 2021. As this is a semester-length program, it is going to overlap both with winter and spring quarter. So you will not have an opportunity to take, come back and take spring or, do part of winter and then participate on this program. Students are really planning to join SCU in fall 2021. One final thing about the academic plan is that your mandatory May advising that all students complete at the end of every spring quarter will be done while you are abroad. And so this will be something that we will work with students on while they are on this program. But that is important to keep in mind that as you are on this program as a Santa Clara student, you are still sort of going to be enveloped in all of the student processes and deadlines that are happening back here on campus. And so this will help also keep you on track towards your progress towards to degree. So in terms of dates and deadlines, I know that our emails have had a lot of different dates and deadlines, and it can get really confusing. So we want to just go ahead and walk you through a little bit about everything that you need to know from a calendar perspective for this program. So the program dates right now are tentative, and they stretch from early March until mid-June. This is in large part because ECNU is determining what their administrative and academic calendar will be, in keeping in mind certain holiday schedules and things like that. And so right now we have been told that you will start in early March. Students, when they arrive, will have an on-site orientation that they will get to participate in, so they get to familiarize themselves with the academic center and their fellow students before starting classes officially in early March. And then once we know a little bit more of what that end date in mid-June will be, we will notify you. But at that stage, Santa Clara, it will be sort of on its way quickly into summer break. So in terms of overlap with any other kind of quarter in Santa Clara, you won't be out of sync. There will be options if you are interested in taking summer classes that you could potentially start even in July. So this shouldn't affect your overall plans too much, especially when it comes to fall not starting until usually late September. So the application itself is due Monday, December 7th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if those of you have started applications, you're welcome to finish it up and submit it today or tomorrow, or you can wait all the way until Monday, December 7th, right up until, again, 12 p.m. So if you have questions or concerns, it's not a rolling basis, so we don't give people preference if they submit, today versus, the next day. So please, get your questions answered and submit by that deadline, so that we can go ahead and verify that all of the requirements are met, and we can notify you of your acceptance to the program very quickly, hopefully by December 8th. So just the next day by 5 p.m. After we say, great, you're accepted into the program, you will then be making that final decision whether or not you are going to confirm your acceptance for this program. So this is then your critical time to decide, am I going to go with this program or am I going to stay with Santa Clara Online? I mean, you will need to let us know that by December 15th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the reason for that and why this particular deadline is so important is then we will then take that roster of confirmed students and share it with our partner provider that I mentioned earlier, API, so that they can begin that work with ECNU to determine what courses are going to be able to be offered based on enrollment. So the sooner we get that information from you, the sooner then we can turn around and say, here are the courses that are going to be offered, so you can plan in even more detail. So what are your next steps? I know we covered quite a bit. Much of the information that I'm talking about, or even more so in terms of details and pictures about housing and courses, can all be reviewed in the program brochure and homepage. So these links were sent directly in the email that I sent you all earlier this week. If you are having trouble accessing them at all, we can provide them to you. If you want to simply email us, we can provide you the links. But this is where you'll get to kind of see the breakdown of everything that I was talking about in this info session. You really want to be focusing on the courses that you are interested in, because you really are going to be needing to be prepared to list those course preferences in your application. It is the sort of main application question. So you won't be able to submit your application unless you can talk about what your course preferences are. And while these, again, don't guarantee that you'll be in these courses, the more you can accurately put the course that you are interested in, the better that API and ECNU can prepare for courses based on student interest. So you don't want to just pick any old course, because if those are what end up being offered and you don't actually have interest in them, that's not going to work well for you when it comes time to actually enrolling in the classes. If you, again, have questions or concerns about your major requirements and maybe making some shifts and adjustments to your schedule, or you are wanting to kind of explore those options for the CTW and CNI sequencing now, you should definitely be reaching out to your department. Even if you are undeclared, but you think you have interest in a particular department, you can still reach out to them and let them know that you need assistance and have some questions. The Drawman Center has told me that they still have some appointments available, though they are, of course, having a busy time like the rest of us, but are welcoming students to make an appointment with them to talk about any questions that they might have prior to the application deadline. For those of you who are instead having questions about housing, API has provided their Shanghai housing email specifically for students who would like to know more about the housing. So if you want to know more about the location, if you have questions about the room setup or anything sort of about daily life when it comes to housing, please feel free to use that email. And then finally, you can continue to send any sort of questions to studyabroad@sdu.edu that you didn't have answered yet. We are working through all of those questions that you have sent us between myself and Melissa if needed. So do know that if you're emailing us, we will find out the best answer for you. Hopefully this info session has sort of addressed many of those, but at this time, if you do have questions, I would love to start to hear from you.
And maybe to kick it off, I can go through the questions that came in the chat through the session.
Great.
Okay, so the first one that I'll address is, I think, was answered, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page. The question was, what will happen to CNI 2, which should be continued in the winter, or CTWs that should be finished in the first year? And as Sarah mentioned, the university will have options for students to complete any CNI or CTW requirements next year. Depending on kind of how the program moves forward, those options may look differently, and we'll talk more about this at an advising session prior to the program. For CNI, there will probably also be options in the summer if you're interested in summer school, and that becomes an option. So there will be options potentially in summer, but also next year. And then Sarah, I'll throw this question at you. So while we're taking courses in Shanghai, can we also take courses at SCU? If that's the case, how many can we take, and how does tuition work?
Sure. So at this point in time, we are asking students to commit fully to the ECNU program, in large part due to the fact that you are trying to operate within both an asynchronous and a synchronous calendar. And so trying to select courses and plan for custom courses at ECNU without necessarily knowing what their timetable is, what their scheduling is going to ultimately look like, and how that would somehow interact with your Santa Clara schedule is right now something that is not part of how we are moving forward in this process. So at this stage, it is important to know that if you are going to attend this program, as I mentioned, you will be taking on a full-time load of ECNU courses, which is about 4 to 5 classes. So if that changes, we will notify students, but that is how students should interact with the information that we've provided.
And then another question that was submitted is regarding the courses provided by the program. Is there more information about the requirements that they fulfill, such as a checklist?
Sure. So in terms of the courses and how they will fulfill Santa Clara requirements, we are in the process of getting all of those evaluated. And so once we have gone through that list, we will start to provide information about that. So we can pull together sort of an up-to-date list of where we're at so far. And so it's important to understand for the course evaluation, we have gone ahead and done some initial evaluation requests to our faculty and our departments sort of on behalf of students, because that hopefully is making the process easier for you. However, there is a process that our study abroad students can follow to request requirements from classes earned abroad from other departments that maybe we haven't already asked. So what we can do is definitely provide that list once it's a little bit more exhaustive. And if you see you know, a course that you're interested that you think would be applicable to a different major that we did not ask, then we can assist you with how to do that request process.
And then I can answer the next two. Are the professors ECNU faculty members? And the answer to that one is yes, they are. And I've gotten this question too, so I'll just throw it in there. But some of the faculty members are from China and others are from all over the world, including the US. So they're, you know, worldwide teachers, but they're ECNU faculty. And then the next question, will the classes be taught in English? All or the vast majority of classes will be taught in English. If the class is not being taught in English, that would be indicated on the class list as well as the syllabi. Okay, looks like we got a couple more questions that came in. I think, so one of the questions that came in is, can I take the Shanghai program while having online classes? And like Sarah said, our goal is that you're doing one or the other. You're participating in the Shanghai program or online classes at SCU. Sarah, do you want to talk more about the difference between semester credit and quarter credit?
Sure. So semester credit and quarter credit really come down to, whether or not you are trying to complete all of your academic hours within a 10-week period, as you are doing at Santa Clara, or if it is an extended period of time over a semester length. And so within the US, there is a particular formula that universities apply sort of across the board to translate or to convert semester credit into quarter credit. And so because you are doing sort of more contact or more academic hours in class or via research or homework, everything that is compiled into your time and your grades on a semester length program, because it is longer, it's actually worth more credit at a quarter system, because within the quarter system you would be completing less work within 10 weeks. So because you're completing more, you're receiving more credit because you have more time to do it. Then the conversion allows you to, again, come back with essentially more credit than you would have earned necessarily in one quarter here at Santa Clara. Now, again, because you are participating in a semester-based program that spans both winter and spring, the total amount of quarter credits, when you divide it over winter and spring quarter, makes it a little bit less per quarter than you would receive if you were here at Santa Clara. But in total, you're earning 22.5 quarter credits in comparison to, say, 15 semester credits.
And a semi-related question is, the 4 to 5 classes mentioned in the email, are they for one quarter or for two?
Right, so sort of in the same vein, that you are taking one semester. So at ECNU, those 4 to 5 classes are going to last through the entirety of the program. So you are not going to take some courses over part of the term and then more courses the second part of the term. They are operating in one solid semester. When you come back to Santa Clara, the total amount that you would receive from that semester will count for essentially over those 2 quarters back here on campus. So the alignment is a little tricky, and so I can appreciate if that's a little confusing. It's confusing to explain it a little bit. So, but essentially you will receive slightly less in quarter credits than you would if you were here for two quarters, but not enough to necessarily hold you back from your overall graduation term. And you will earn maybe slightly less requirements because you will have only taken 4 to 5 classes rather than maybe 6 to 7 classes. So there will be a slight differential in the amount of credits and requirements that you're earning. But again, with sort of proper academic planning, this is something that study abroad students work through sort of all the time when they're considering semester programs in the spring term. And all of our students are typically able to kind of complete that by planning for their future quarters here at Santa Clara to take up any kind of requirements that they might want to make up.
Will there be core courses such as critical thinking and writing, CTW, religion, theology, and culture? I'll let you answer that first and then the second part.
Sure. So as far as the CTW and the CNI courses, as we mentioned, the sequencing of these is most likely something that you are going to pick back up when you come back here to Santa Clara. So trying to complete these abroad, at least in our initial discussions with advising, sounds like might not necessarily be possible. However, for other core courses, we are still in the evaluation process for having courses evaluated for other general core requirements. So I think that's the long answer. The short answer is then your CTW and your CNI, even if they are not able to be accommodated while you are abroad, you will have an opportunity still to complete them on track when you return to Santa Clara, as well as if the core, hopefully core courses are evaluated for other general core that you could take while abroad.
And then the email says courses are not yet finalized. When can courses be finalized?
So by finalized, I think you mean in terms of what will actually be offered. And if I'm understanding that incorrectly, please let me know. That again goes back to sort of how many students are going to enroll in this program, so that API as well as ECNU can start planning based on enrollment numbers which courses are going to be the most needed by students. So if there is a course, for example, that really only has 2 or 3 students who are interested in taking it, it is unlikely that that course is going to run versus another one that has maybe 15 or 20 students that are really interested in it. So what that means for you right now is to really look at that full list and find as many program, or excuse me, as many courses as possible that are of interest or of use to you. So not just, for example, 4 or 5 classes. Having additional courses that you have looked into and that you are interested in means that even if it is some time before they are able to finalize the actual course offerings, you have a lot of wiggle room because you have courses that you can substitute quite easily if you have maybe say 8 that you've listed as preferences. And so this type of planning is what we do with our study abroad students. Before they go abroad. So they'll go abroad with a plan of courses that they're interested in with backup choices. Sort of no different than when you do your planning here at Santa Clara. It's never 100% guaranteed what courses are going to be offered until closer to the time of the start of the quarter or enrollment. So it's always a good idea to approach this process with backup plans, courses in mind.
And if I decide to apply for the Shanghai program, do I just drop the classes that I registered for in winter? Is there anything else that I need to do?
Good question. So we are going to try and make this process as painless as possible for students. So we will handle that. Once you officially commit, so not just submit your application, but commit, as I mentioned back on the last slide, on December 15th. Once you hit commit and you are committed to the Shanghai program, we will then take your information and share it with the registrar office here on campus to let them know that you'll be participating on this program. They will put you into a special study abroad course and remove you from your other courses. So you don't have to do anything other than follow the deadlines for the application and the confirmation.
Okay. And then what will be the difference between students in the business school and students in arts and sciences?
So I'm not entirely certain what you mean by what the difference would be. I think for while you are abroad or on this program, students from any discipline are all considering sort of the same classes. How they apply to your plan might look different if you are a business student or a social science student. That will really sort of just be determined by what your major is or what core requirements you have to complete. But students will have access to all of these courses in the same way. When you return to Santa Clara, again, you know, how you reintegrate into your major requirements or your progress here on campus might again look different if you are a business student or a social science student. The other thing I'll add to that is that any sort of Santa Clara required policies or procedures or information sessions for business students versus social science students that are ongoing while you are on this program, you will still be following. So you are still a business student if you are a declared business student, even if you are not necessarily taking courses on this program for your business degree. So it's important to understand that you're still actively participating in Santa Clara as a business student, if that is your goal or if that is your declared major. Hopefully that answers your question, but if I missed the point of that, please let me know.
Okay. If the course I'm interested in will not be offered eventually due to low enrollment, can I change back to the online classes at SCU?
So again, going back to having alternates, that's really the point of the alternate plan. So that hopefully, if one particular class isn't offered, you can swap that in with another class. However, if this one particular course is the one course that you needed, then I will say two things about that. One, I think if you are very dead set on one class working for you, and that is the one course that will really make sense for your academic plan on this program, and if you don't get it, then that's very problematic. We might want to talk more about whether or not this is a good academic choice to participate on this program at this time, because this participation on this program, I think, it really comes down to flexibility and being really open to some modicum of uncertainty a little bit, which is not really a great place for everybody to always be when they're trying to make plans, right? And so I can appreciate that. So if you are one of those students who really is dependent on maybe one or two of these courses, and without those courses this program is going to be at a detriment to them, so it's going to disadvantage them or make their time here at Santa Clara harder, then we would probably say this is not probably the best fit for you. That being said, if you need to withdraw from this program later on for any reason, while you can do that, I will say that trying to then re-enter and re-register for courses is really dependent on what will be available at that time. That is sort of on par with, again, how our study abroad students go through this process. So when they withdraw from their regular Santa Clara courses to take study abroad courses and then try and come back in, it really just depends on what's available at that point in time.
And then can you tell us what are some of the other colleges that will also be at the ECNU program?
I can't off the top of my head. This would be something that the program provider API might be able to give you some more information about. We're not necessarily privy to or have access to information about other universities. Other than that, again, I have been told that they are working with other US institutions. And so students will see other students outside of just Santa Clara.
Okay, and then we have one other question from Yuming, and I just sent you a, oh, okay, sorry, got it now. So a student is asking about an internal transfer, which I now know what an internal transfer. So if they're switching, let's say, from the College of Arts and Sciences to the Levy School of Business.
I would say that you should talk with the School of Business if that's where you were trying to transfer into, to determine what that process looks like. If it is simply needing to apply by a certain date or deadline, this participating in this program should not prevent you from doing that, because you are still a Santa Clara student. So you will still have access to your Santa Clara email address. You will still receive information and updates and communications from the university and the School of Business. You'll still have access to your eCampus. So all of the things that you have for your student portal, and it will be in place. However, if there are, and you'll still have access to your School of Business advisors virtually, of course. If there are requirements that you need to complete during winter and spring term in order to successfully transfer to the School of Business, that is a different story. And so that is something they can answer for you. I unfortunately am not a business advisor, so I don't have that information. But if you need to take a very specific course that of course is not offered on the ECNU program, then my inclination is to say that you would probably not be able to participate on this program. Instead, you would need to focus on completing whatever coursework you needed to successfully apply to transfer, if that was your priority.
So how do we find someone that's in the business department? No, like the
Sure.
business.
So each department has department managers that you can contact. And so those department managers oversee kind of the operations for the department and can tell you who the best person to get in contact with is. So oftentimes there are multiple faculty advisors. Sometimes, depending on your question, peer advisors are also available to assist. And so depending on what your question is, they'll be able to kind of route you in the direction of the best person to talk to. So yeah, so if you're on like the School of Business page, or if you're, let's say, a marketing student, you go to the marketing page, and the department managers are typically listed under the staff or contact section or about us section for most all departments.
Hi, this is Joanna. Oh, sorry. I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry, I have a sort of like personal question. Since I'm a sophomore in SU, but I gapped last spring quarter, so I don't have that much of like core requirements taken, and I still have to take my CTW2 and CNI2 like in the future, and I selected my CTW2 for the winter quarter already, and then like unlike other sophomore students, they have already took these two classes. Can I only take one CTW2 class as a part-time student in SCU online class, and then also take the like 45 full-time courses in the Chinese school? Is that a possible case?
Sure. So thank you for that question. So again, at this stage, we are saying that students need to select this program and focus solely on taking the ECNU courses. There are potential scheduling conflicts between asynchronous and synchronous courses that could really be a disadvantage to you when it comes to eventually enrolling in ECNU and planning for ECNU courses, as well as sort of kind of raising some challenges for kind of operating within the Santa Clara cohort community that you're building abroad, if you're trying to take sort of asynchronous course or synchronous courses here at Santa Clara while also in person there. So at this stage, that is not the direction that we are going with this program. So I think if you have questions about your particular situation in regards to CTW and CNI, making an appointment with the Drummond Center in the next couple days might be of great value. They, like I said, they have told us that they do have some slots available still. So you can make an appointment, I believe, directly through their online system. And I want to be mindful of that. We only have about 3 minutes left. So I don't know, Melissa, if there are any other questions that came in via chat. Or if there's any sort of last bit that you'd like to add before we finish up here.
Yeah, I am Sarah. I just father of Chenhua, so just on behalf of hers. So my question is, I noticed there's more difference between the email, the credits, the transfer from the semester credits to the quarter. In email, they say it will receive 22.5 to 24 SCU quarter credits, but in your slides, it's about maybe around 22.5. So which is the more accurate?
Sure, thank you for that. So I'm thinking that you maybe are referring to our initial information email that we sent out. And so this process of sort of creating this program has been happening really quickly. And so as we have gotten information from our partner in API and ECNU, we've tried to sort of provide that to students as quickly as we have been able to. So as we have done more work with them over the past few days since we've opened the application to learn more about how much the courses are going to be worth, then the information that we've provided both in this info session as well as the program brochure is the most up to date. So the 22.5 quarter credits.
So 22.5, that could be the latest update. Yeah, that could be.
Really, yes. And again, it does vary because it really depends on if students again are taking, you know, 4 classes or 5. So that's why we provide sort of that range. But if a student is taking 5 classes and each of them are 3 semester units each, that's the 15 semester credits. So it is about 22.5 quarter credits is what we've learned.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I again want to be mindful of everyone's time, and I just want to say on behalf of our team, we are really excited about this program. We've done a lot of work on it over in the past couple of weeks, and everything we've learned sounds like this is hopefully going to be a really exciting opportunity for students if you are interested in coming along on this adventure a little bit, and hopefully providing students a real space to kind of start to explore and experience life as a Santa Clara cohort, even if it is not directly with us here on campus. And so we continue to invite your questions via email. Anything that we haven't had a chance to answer here, we will follow up with. As I just mentioned in my last answer, as we get more updated information from ECNU and our partner, we will continue to share that with students. And so we look forward to hopefully working with you all as we go forward. So thank you so much. And we wish you all the best in the rest of your day, wherever you might be in it. Take care.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Sarah, I just have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I see that you are less active in the group chat now. Do you still have access to WeChat or?
I think you might be referring to, is it a different Sarah?
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
never
not
mind. Okay.
Sorry, I know it gets confusing when we have the same names.
Oh, yeah.
That one I might direct to Melissa or have you email.
So what I would say there is Sarah is generally active on WeChat. She is currently out of the office dealing with a family emergency. And so she has limited access to work. So just be aware of that. I would say email at this point is the best way to contact with us. And when Sarah's back, I'm sure